For this interview, I'm going to be talking to the one, the only Sigurbodi from Iceland. Sigurbodi is, I think first of all he was mostly known for his music, but since then, as well as storytelling amongst other things, he's now working alongside his wonderful fiancée Ravenhilde in tattooing in Iceland. It's insane how quickly he's coming on with his work. It's very impressive. And yeah, he's a wonderful guy and a good friend of mine, so it was a pleasure recording this. So I hope you're going to enjoy it too. So we are jumping into this head on for organic flow. How you doing, man?
I'm all right.
Yeah. How's Iceland in Ragnarok?
Now we're still on lockdown and winter has begun, so now we have storms and freezing and lockdown. So it is truly the apocalypse over here.
Well, let's hope that when it comes around to this one, to the end of the winter, that it isn't just going to continue for another 9 winters, and you'll start doing all of the weird shit in the prophecy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite there of wanting to kill my brother just yet, but it may happen according to the prophecy that brothers will kill brothers.
But your cousins are starting to look quite sexy. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Well, I was thinking about on this one about me and you just having a chat on this, that sort of the idea is to just talk about interesting things more than anything, and we're going to home in on some storytelling and stuff. So talking about interesting things, I think it'd be kind of cool to talk about the seeress in that prophecy. That's supposed to happen in Iceland, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's said that it was.
Well, it was written in Iceland.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I don't know how much about you know about it, but I've heard that she.
I don't know.
It was supposed to be that they were supposed to be Christian, more or less, but there was hard times, so they thought they'd have her come along and do some stuff, and people would sing the songs that, to initiate the, to get the mood going, and everyone knew the songs even though they're not supposed to. And she had a cat skin hood, cat skin gloves, lots of cat skin, basically, and yeah. What do you know about that?
I've never heard of that.
No,
but I wouldn't be surprised because we had a lot of different series, and some have been found, like actual archaeological. There was one found in a cave who had all like pearls and stuff on her. I haven't heard that with if you're talking about Völuspá, like the prophecy of the world from the Eddic poems.
I might be mixing things up.
But this specific thing,
I think I'm mixing things up.
Yeah, maybe. But who knows? I don't know everything. It could be that you're right.
Tell me about the one in the cave. I don't know about that.
Oh, so we call her the Blue Lady. It's quite fascinating. She was found in the east. There was a hunter who was walking around looking for birds or something to shoot, and his dog found bones in a cave. Well, it wasn't really a cave, it was more like a crevice or something, like near a river, and it was in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing, even archaeologically, like towns. This was up on a mountain far in the, like, no one would ever go there. And there was a woman lying there. She was, obviously a skeleton, but she was very well preserved. Like, no animals had been nibbling on her or anything. She was just lying there. There was a bunch of little pearls, like, and glass beads, and she was clearly wealthy, and especially because she wore a blue dress, and blue was like not even kings were blue, because like I think you need saffron to make blue in those times anyway. So, you need to get your hands on saffron, which is already super expensive. So, yeah, she was of great importance, and there have been similar graves found in Norway with women lying with loads and loads of beads, and they were always these seeresses or witches or vulvas or what have you. And so that points that she also was. And if we don't know if she died when she was just having a walk, or if this was some kind of ritual for her to go to her final resting place on her own. And another fascinating thing about her is that it's likely, I don't know how they do it. They check her bone structure, molecular stuff, and it's very likely that she actually came from the Far East, as far as Mongolia, or her parents came from there, or something like that. She was quite far away, her lineage anyway. So it's quite fascinating, like how would she end up in Iceland, only to die on a mountain, just like any old hunter would.
Yeah. That's crazy. I think that's actually really interesting when I've, the more I've looked into the Viking Age, like the idea of how much people travelled at that time. And I think it's really odd, actually, that there's so much sort of pushback from some people about saying, like, oh, you've got Marxist views about saying this and that and whatever. It's like, I don't give a shit about that. I'm interested in the history and what people actually did. I don't have any agendas of any of that kind of stuff. So, like, I remember reading about one lady, and maybe you're going to know her name, but, like, in her time, she was part of she went over to Greenland from Iceland and went and settled in Greenland with Eric the Red, and then headed over to Vinland, battled with Native Americans or the Skraelings, and then probably slaving. And then at another point of her life, she went to Rome, probably met the Pope, had sons in the Varangian Guard that would have served over in Constantinople, and made it back to Iceland and died at something like 80 or 90 years old or so. And they reckon that she was one of the most well-travelled people in her day.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. I'm pretty useless with stuff like that.
Yeah, but we can also, like, when people were sailing from Norway or Denmark to Iceland, you can imagine with, like, weeks of sailing and battling the elements, but in a really good condition, you could make it there in 3 days. If you had the headwinds and everything, obviously that wouldn't be so maybe, like, you could estimate, like, a week to get there. So it wasn't this massive of a distance as people some things. Like, you would go to Iceland and you wouldn't even bother going back because there's, like, half your life.
Yeah.
But so traveling that much was definitely possible, and people did it. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool that she would travel so much all the way from Finland and then to Turkey within a lifetime. Is still very impressive for one person.
I mean, I've heard if you've got good weather, you can make it from Denmark to England in 2 days one way as well, which is, again. But then you hear about, like, people making a crossing, say, from the shortest distance in between France and England, and they get stuck out in the middle of nowhere for 2 weeks. So it's all just luck of the draw, I think. You know what? I'm going to tell you a story since that's what we said we were going to do on this one. Talking of graves, because I fucking love talking about, like, interesting graves and stuff. I know you've heard me ranting a little bit about some of the things that are around here in North Wales around me, or more specifically around Llandudno, my hometown. So, you've got the Great Orme, where I grew up, and then on the other side of Llandudno you've got the Little Orme. And on the Little Orme there was a cave that was excavated. Sadly, I can't remember the date. And in this cave, they started digging, and on the top layers of it they found a Bronze Age spear. So we can say that, let's just say it's around 3,000 years old or something. And then they started digging a bit further down, and then they found this amazingly well preserved skeleton of a woman from about, I want to say about 8,000 or 9,000 years ago. I think it's around 8,000 years, and it was really, really like well preserved. And they would have found out a lot about her if her skeleton wasn't put in a washing machine by a senile old lady in the museum, which is a travesty. And she was buried with a pig ceremoniously, and then they dug a little bit. They kept digging down, and underneath her they found the remains of hippos and hyenas.
Really,
like,
hippos
from around here, and there's definitely hyenas. I think it was hippos or rhinos. I think it's hippos. Yeah. So like loads of crazy stuff happened in this cave over thousands of years, because at one point it was tropical around here and there was lots of things happening. But yeah, that's my little story for you.
Thanks.
Let's go back to Iceland.
Back to Iceland.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've got a story for you as well. This one is, so like you made a request of me of some Icelandic tales.
I sure did.
And,
I'm feeling rigid. Come on, bring it on.
You sure did. Well, so most of our stories, you've already heard a version from either Celtic or German folklore. So yeah, we basically stole all of our stories. And the other ones that are like, yeah, so there was a ghost, and then the priest came, and now there's no ghost. But there are a few that are specifically Icelandic, or that at least I didn't find any sources that were not from other countries. So this one is called the Deacon of Mirchka.
Okay.
Mirchka means like dark river, and Mirchka is a town in Eyjafjörður, which is in the north, close to a town called Akureyri, which we call like the capital in the north. I think it's the second largest city in Iceland. And there was a deacon, and he was a lovely chap, very handsome, and he was sweet on a girl from like the next town over, and they were sort of flirting, and he had some cool stuff, like he had his own house and he had a horse named Grani. No, not Grani. Grani, which is like the grey one. Which so like in the Faroese version, Grani is the horse that Sigurbodi, or the Bane of the Dragon, uses to take the gold from the dragon. Whatever, I'm getting off tangent. Anyway, and they decide that it's December, and he's gonna say, I'm gonna pick you up on Christmas Day, and we're gonna go to a ball, and we're gonna have some fun and party like it's 1700s.
Dress up warm.
Yeah, exactly. But a week earlier, he's sitting at home, and he really, really wants to see her. Perhaps it was libido, perhaps it was just boredom, who knows. And but it's really snowy and icy and cold and dark outside, but he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna go anyway. And he needs to cross a bridge over Mirchka, the dark river. And the bridge gives in, and he falls into the river and hits the back of his head, and it splits open, and he dies. And the next morning, a farmer...
that is not ideal.
No, you don't really want that happening. No. So a farmer finds him, and his horse is really distressed, and let's just say the horse lived, because that's a better version of the story anyway.
Traumatized forever, but yeah.
Good. Yeah. But like, so the weather is horrible, so they just bury him, and they can't really get a message to the girl that he's died. There's like, okay, we need to wait for the weather to let her know that, you know, your fiance is dead. But, you know, life goes on. They bury him next to the church. So her name is Guðrún, which is a very common, like, Icelandic name. It's like, yeah, especially this part, it was like something with a lot of names have something Guð in it, like Guðrún, Guðjón, Guð, and Guð means God, and Rún means rune. You know, her name is Godrún, which is a common name. And she's sitting on Christmas Day, getting ready, putting on all her layers of dresses and whatnot. And there's a knock on the door, and she looks outside.
Can I just interject and just say, I feel like this story is not going to have a happy ending.
Oh, well, I mean, who knows? I mean, this is an Icelandic story, so, you know, you never know what's going to happen.
They don't usually have happy endings.
No, just like our entire nation. It doesn't really have a happy ending. Yeah, there's a knock on the door, and there he is. He's standing there with a hood over his head, and you know the horse is standing there going like and all that.
No.
And she's like, "Oh, you're here. You're kind of no." He's like, "Oh, you're kind of early. Let me just get my I don't know what it's called in English. Hempa. It's like a hood, but it also has sleeves on it. We call it hempa anyway." And she's in a hurry, so she only puts on like one arm into the sleeve, and the other she just kind of wraps around her shoulder. And she jumps on the horse, and being that this is Iceland, they don't really talk, and that's completely normal. Icelanders don't talk unless there's something to talk about. So they just sat there on the horse in silence, and it was completely like dark outside, but the moon was shining between the clouds, so sometimes it would peek out and you could see a little bit, and then it went dark again. And at one point, when the moon was peeking out, the horse went over a rock or something, and his hood popped off, and she could see a white patch on the back of his head, and you know, got frightened, of course. And he said to her, "Mánin líður, dauðinn ríður. Sérðu ekki hvítan blett í hnakka mínum, Garún, Garún." And in translation is, "The moon fades, death rides. Don't you see a white spot on the back of my head, Garún, Garún?" Because he can't say Guðrún. He can only say Garún because, you know, he's dead. He's a zombie. So he and she immediately like, okay, that's fucked up. Why wouldn't he say my name? So they ride on a little further, and they're close to...
She's getting a red flag.
A red flag indeed. They're getting close to the church where he's buried. When he jumps off the horse and says, "Bittu hérna, Garún, Garún, meðan ég flyt hann faxa, faxa, upp fyrir garða, garða." It's, "Wait here, Garún, Garún, while I move faxi, faxi," which is a name for a horse, over the fence. That's when she realizes like she's in danger, and she runs into the bell tower and starts ringing a bell, and she doesn't know what to do. So he comes up behind her and grabs her shoulder and rips really hard, but she didn't put on her cloak properly. So he falls backwards into his grave, and the mud goes back over it. And she keeps ringing the bell until all the townspeople come over. But it's not over. You see, he's back in his grave, but there's no one to stop him from just coming back up. So for a week, he keeps coming back up and bothering her and trying to get her to come to the ball, which, you know, who knows what he's going to do with her. So they get a guy called...
I think she should go to the ball.
Yeah, maybe she should just go for it.
I think she, yeah.
Dance with the Dead.
What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. So they remember I went with you to the Magic Museum in Holmavik.
I do remember. I remember it well.
Back when you were here in Iceland. Yeah. You do remember, yeah. So they get a guy from Holmavik to come north. Holmavik is like a really magical town in Iceland. There's a lot of history of both, burning witches and also becoming witches in that town. And he comes over and he does this like, be gone with you, ghost, and that doesn't work. And he's like, let me get my potions, and that doesn't work either. So he just orders like a bunch of men to drag a massive, massive rock and just place it on top of his grave. And so he can't get out. And that rock is still there. True story.
And that stops him then?
Yeah, I mean, he can't lift the rock. He's not a super zombie.
Well, I don't know how Icelandic zombies work, so...
Well, they can't lift rocks. So, if you're ever in trouble, just to hand them a rock.
That's pretty cool. I like it, man. That's a good story.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't think I would like to have gone to the ball with the Icelandic zombie man. To be fair,
I mean, like you said, you never know. Maybe this would have been a really different story if she would have gone with him and they had a blast and lived happily ever after. He just, his jaw sort of just falls off once in a while and he has to patch up the hole in the back of his head. But otherwise, they're happy,
I reckon,
But that didn't happen. The other one, that did happen, because, my grandfather was there. He saw it happen. It's true.
I reckon if she did go to the ball, every song that would have played would have been zombie related as well. And then she'd be getting some strong vibes that this was not right.
Yeah. The Dance of Death with Iron Maiden.
Yeah. Well, I have a story for you as well. Sadly, I don't think I'm telling it perfectly because I don't think I've actually heard this story getting told to me since I was a child, because my primary school was named after this story and I haven't heard it since I was there. So it's probably a little bit twisted, and as it is, I've tried to look it up on the internet to see if I can find a reference for it, and it's not anywhere other than in my primary school. And I know I'm not making it up because my school is named after it. It's called Rhianedd, and this is the story of it. So, like in Welsh mythology and Welsh myths and stuff, we have a lot of stories of lost lands. Like England in Welsh is called Lloegr, and it's different from what we call the English because we call them Saeson, which is like Saxons. So, like Lloegr is the idea of a lost land. And there's lots of other stories about losing land to the sea as well. And, obviously this would have happened a long time ago as well. So, they don't completely come out of nowhere, but, there's lots of different versions of it, and this is one of them. So, the idea is that off the coast of here, in between the Great Orme and Llandudno and Ynys Môn, or Anglesey, like it's now sea, but the myth goes that used to be a land, and there was a tribe that lived there, and the chieftain had a daughter called Rhianedd, and there was a young warrior that wanted her hand, but he was not high enough, up the pecking order to put his pecker in her. So he went about trying to figure out how to do this, because she was definitely into him as well, and she kept giving mixed signals about it. She's like, yeah, I really want you, but you're not good enough, oh, if only you were good enough and stuff. If only you were richer, and if only if you had a gold talk. And he was like, well, we'll see. So he decided one day that he was going to follow home a chieftain of another tribe. He crossed over the mountains and he found this chieftain who was coming out of the pub completely wasted, and he was staggering home, and this warrior just jumped him from behind, like he knifed him in the back, which, according to the story, was really uncool. And yeah, I guess it's probably still really uncool. It's always uncool.
It's always uncool.
Yeah, like a an honourable warrior to be given such a lowly death. And he's stripping him of his finery. He steals his neck torque and his arm rings and, you know, really fine gold covered in lateen swirly boys, and he puts them on. And then the ghost of the dead man like rises in front of him and says, "You know, man, I can't believe you fucking did this. You are such a coward and such a dick. I know why you've done this, and it is true. You are going to win Rhiannar's hand for this action, but you're not going to get to enjoy it for more than a year and a day. And then if you follow through with your plan of going through with all of this and going and marrying her, you know, with all of this stolen honor, I will fuck up your whole world and kill everyone you know and love." And he's like, "Yeah, screw you. I don't give a fuck." And he runs off. He's just like, "I want to get laid." And he goes. And, you know, he presents himself to Rhiannon and to the chieftain. And he says, "Yeah, I went and did some cool stuff, and I'm very brave, and I'm just a lovely guy. I've got all of the aspects necessary for the job, so can I marry your daughter?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't see why not." And they get married, and she's pregnant, and things are going really well. They're living in the lowlands over here in a nice little round house. But sure enough, a year and a day, you know, comes around very quickly. And there's a massive tidal wave that just comes in, and he's actually off hunting that day by chance, and he just watches from the top of the mountain from like Talavan as he watches this tidal wave just wash away the whole village and everyone. You know, he can nearly hear the screams above the sound of the waves. And yeah, he just has to live with the shame for the rest of his life. And that's what my primary school is named after.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's definitely a moral in that story, and that's if you're going to kill a guy for his gold, you just don't stab them in the back. You know, you got to do it from the front.
Yeah,
you got to be
at
making eye
least
contact.
tell him like, yeah, like, "Hey, I'm gonna stab you," and like, "No, you're not." Like, I at least I told you I'm gonna do it, and then
you got to at least shout surprise or something.
Yeah. Now, of course, like I mentioned earlier, that our folk tales are stolen and all that, but you know, we do have like the Icelandic sagas and the Eddic poems, and that was all, well, not all of it, but it was mostly written down here in Iceland. But there's one guy I find particularly interesting. He was called Sæmundur Frode. Frode means the wise one, so Sæmundur, the smarty pants.
Mm-hmm.
And he was from a place called Oddi. And he was, you know, this guy was absolutely real. He was like a Latin scholar. He was one of the first. He lived, like, I think he was born like in the 11 or 1200s or something. He, you know, and there was another guy born in Oddi later who learned from Sæmundur, and his name was Snorri Sturluson. So Sæmundur was his...
Can I just anglicise his name for a second?
Yeah.
His name then anglicised would be Simon Frodo.
Yeah. Simon Frodo. Exactly. So Frodo was Snorri's teacher. And like but they're like, because he was an absolute legend and apparently was a really fun guy. Frodo he was there's a bunch of tales that have been crafted about him that, I want to say probably didn't happen, because you never know. So he had a lot of dealings with the devil, and the devil in Iceland has so many different names. They call him like Fjandi, Anskoti, Kulski, and yeah, we have a bunch of them. And most of our swears as well are we like, it's just like hell, devil, devil, hell, devil, devil. That's when an Icelander is really mad. It's like Anskotans, helvitis, Fjandans, Anskotans. And in this and these and Simon the Frode was always dealing with a guy called Kulski, and Kulski is the devil, just another name for him. And yeah, so there's a bunch of tales spun around him, and some of them are probably adapted from other stories. Like there's one where he's studying in Rome, and he needs to get back to Iceland, and he just misses the boat, because there's apparently just one boat per year or something. So he makes a deal with the devil that if you can get me to Iceland, you can have my soul. And he turns into a seal and swims with him on his back. And when they're just about to reach Iceland, he whacks him on the head and swims the rest of the way. So, the devil didn't get him all the way to Iceland. These sort of like kind of children's stories. But there is one story that I find particularly fun, which is actually kind of similar to the other one a little bit. So he went to a school called Svartiskóli, or just the black school, where you can learn magic and mostly black magic. And when you go in the school, it's always pitch black inside, and it's run by the devil. And like when you walk in, there's like you sign a deal, like those who go in will lose their soul. And he goes in and he studies, and he's there for 3 years, studying every day just by candlelight, learning black magic. And there's a hand in the wall that, when there's lunchtime or dinner time, there's a hand that pokes out of the wall and gives you food, and then just go, and that's all the interaction with the devil he ever has in there. But when the 3 years are done, they say that like the last person to leave belongs to the devil. And so what he does is he like grabs a leg of mutton and puts it in his sleeve. And so, when everybody's leaving, the devil is shaking their hand, like giving them the diploma, like, oh, here you go, you're now a dark wizard. And so he shakes the hand with the mutton and then runs away. So the devil couldn't catch him. But yeah, there's a bunch of these, like, yeah.
I like it. And it shows that the lesson of it is to be sneaky as fuck.
Yeah, and apparently it's really easy to mess with the devil, and there's no repercussions whatsoever.
Well, I like that, but he definitely went to hell then.
Well,
all this time it's like, yeah, I definitely got away with it.
yeah. I mean, apparently the devil, he doesn't really seek vengeance when somebody messes with him. He just kind of like, all right, yeah, you got away, yeah, that's fine.
Oh, damn. God, I'm not very good at this.
Yeah, one time he challenges him to like, I bet you can't get through this small hole in this tree, and the devil turns into a squirrel and goes through, and then like, I bet you can't get through this ring, and he turns into like a worm, and he crawls through the ring. And he's like, I bet you can't get into this like leg bone, and he turns into something else and goes into the leg bone. And Sigurbodi, Frode, he puts a cap in the leg bone so he can't get out, so he hasn't trapped in the leg bone.
I like it. Yeah,
it's all true.
Fact.
I saw it happen.
Icelandic facts with Sigurbodi. Oh man. Trying to think if I know any devil stories from around here. They're all a bit shit. There's a couple of ones like saying that like there's a point like when back in the day, you know, where you used to have horses and carriages and shit. They'd be going from here to Ross-on-Sea, and there was always a spot where the horses would always freak out and break their reins and go running off, and they were like, yeah, the devil was spooking them right there.
We would just have stories.
Maybe there's more of a chance that cars will get a flat tire around there now.
Yeah, we would just have stories of farmers going to a party on their horse carriage, and when they were done, you know, drinking, they would just stumble into the carriage, and the horse would take them home. So people would prank each other and switch the horses, so people would go to each other's homes. But I mean, we also got a bunch of stories related to sort of Halloweeny Christian and Christmassy stuff. I mean, I don't know how many people are aware that we in Iceland, we do Christmas very differently from other nations. Well, except like the Christmas day, that's the normal, you know, open up the gifts and all that. But things leading up to it and afterwards. So we have 13 like Yule lads. So it's not like Santa Clauses, they're like Yule lads. And so the stories are like back in the day, they used to be pranksters and evildoers, and they would mess with people, and they all have nicknames accordingly. Like one is like Wiener Stealer or something. So he would sneak into your smokehouse and steal your sausages. And one is like door slammer. So he would like, when everyone's asleep, he would open up your door and slam it real hard because he's you know, a giant dick. And but you know, then like they all learned compassion, and now they give kids gifts. So like for 13 days before Christmas, like starting on the 11th, yeah, kids would put their shoe into the windowsill on their bedroom, and when they wake up, they would have a little, like maybe a bouncy ball or a bit of chocolate or something, you know, a gift from the Santa Clauses. And if we dig a little deeper into, you know, Icelandic lore, their mother, called Grýla, she's not too far off from that German Krampus. I don't know which one is older regarding the legend, but I think Grýla is like, she's mentioned in Snorra-Edda, Grýla. But I don't know if the story of how she behaves is older than Krampus, so there might be some mixing there. But basically, she steals kids that misbehave around Christmas time in her sack and eats them. Mm. And so, like when I was a kid, if I was being a little rowdy jerk, my mom would say, you know, you better behave if Grýla's gonna come and eat you. Which, you know, is just a nice pass for parents to get their kids to behave. But, you know, in today's time, people are like, that's kind of child abuse.
Did you ever get the sack come over your head?
No, I was a nice kid. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's a bit of a child abuse to frighten your kid like that. So people are kind of stopping using that on their children. And she has a cat who's like a giant Titanic cat that eats kids that don't get new clothes before Christmas. So that's kind of like making fun of the poor or something. So if you don't like, it doesn't have to be a full set of, like, just like you need to. So it's really popular to give socks, for example, on Christmas. So like you get something so the Yule cat doesn't come and eat you.
I'm getting some strong Harry Potter vibes right now.
Yeah. Oh wait, it gets better. So the Yule lads, they come one by one into town, and then they leave one by one after Christmas. And after Christmas, so it would be on the 6th of January, we call that the 13th because it's the 13 Yule. So on the 13th, we have a day of there's like a whale that opens between the spirit world and the human world, very similar to kind of Halloweeny stuff, but this is more directed to like elves. So there's like the elf world in Iceland, and people would dress up as elves. Nowadays they just go as Superman and Spider-Man and whatnot, but they used to dress up as elves, and they would dance around the fire singing songs, inviting elves to come and join them, so that the elves, no one would recognize who is and isn't an elf. So they're just free to join in, and they can just, get drunk and be happy. And this would sort of be the peace offering, so the elves would leave us alone for the rest of the year. So you can party hardy on this one day, and, just kind of don't mess with us for the rest of the year. So that's our take on the Halloween sort of tradition.
Appeasing the elves. Do you have a favorite Icelandic Christmas song? Are there any that are any good for a start?
Well, here's something truly bizarre, and there's been some like scandals about this. Back in like the 80s, Icelanders would, because there was no internet, they would like travel to like maybe Spain or Italy or something, and they would just find any old song on the radio, not Christmas related at all, just some kind of like maybe jazzy samba music, and they would just add sleigh bells and add Christmas lyrics. And so like 90% of Icelandic Christmas songs are just stolen songs with like winter themes on them. I'm not making this up. So people were like, there was like this scandal, like people were like, oh, so I was listening to my favorite Spanish mariachi band, and then I heard this song playing in the grocery store in Iceland, and they're like, no, it's a Christmas song. I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, I would say, any of them, because they're all kind of funny. But, of course we did our fair share of stealing regular songs as well. That's a lot of what Icelanders did, because they couldn't come up with their own stuff. So they just kind of, they would take Rockin' Robin and make lyrics about something completely different and just claim it was written by an Icelander, because who's going to know? You're not going to go to England and listen to radio. No one was doing that. So it's like, oh yeah, I wrote this song called Nice Jacket, and it's Rockin' Robin.
Nice. All right, I'm going to tell you about my favourite one then, before I tell you about some weird shit that we do at Christmas here as well. So, in Welsh, Santa Claus is called Shodden Con. I don't know what it means. I haven't looked into that yet. So the lyrics to this song, so when I was in primary school, you're going to know the part when I get to it, when all the kids will get really fired up and would really get into the song. Because pretty much all of the rest of the songs, we did a lot of singing in school, with it been Wales and sing shit. A lot of the songs, people really didn't get into them that much, but this one, everyone fucking loved it. So the lyrics are, who is coming across the hill? Quietly, quietly, quietly. It's Santa Claus. So the abridged version for you, just the highlights is Pwysyn dŵa dros y bryn distaw bach. Pwysyn dŵa dros y bryn distaw bach. Sean Conn, tid loud. So the last bit is like, come down the chimney, come on. So yeah, I fucking love that one. Such a good one. Anyhow, so now on to some serious Welsh stuff that we do. Obviously, you've been coming over to some of the parties that we've been holding, around winter solstice or Christmas, whatever you want to call it, in Wales with the horse skull when we do all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So the origins, yeah, it is pretty cool. Obviously, we do our own versions, but it is supposed to involve lots of alcohol for sure. So I gotta admit, I'm not quite sure where it's been preserved most strongly, but more around mid Wales. It's the idea that you're supposed to have one person that plays the character Mari Lloyd, where you get a horse skull and you mount it on their head, and you can like put a spring so the jaw kind of flaps a little bit, and you can put shiny things in the eyes to make it more creepy, and then you put a white cloak, like a hood, over the top of the skull so it covers the person as well, and then you take them round on a lead, and it's, you know, it's usually a bunch of farmers that would take around one person dressed as Mari Lloyd. I guess the person that was the weakest singer in the group, because that person was just silent. And then you go up to someone's door on Christmas Day and you sing the song, and it's kind of like a bit of a rap battle. It's an excuse to sing and to show off your range and your improv. And you sing like, it's the day, and I want to come inside and I want to drink your alcohol and I want to eat any sweet things you've got. And the person doesn't open the door, they just go against the door and shout or sing through the door. That's not good enough. Give me more reason why I should let you in. And you can look at versions of this, like recordings on the BBC from 1950s, and it's in Welsh, but they're saying like, because I sing as well as Bill Crosby, and you should let me in because I am the bomb. And they're just like, so the melody. It's got a very particular melody to it. I'm not gonna do it because I won't do it justice. But and then obviously, most of the time they just go, all right, and they let you in, and then they share the stuff with you, and you have a party. But I can only think how sad it is if you've gone through all of that effort, and then you do your little thing, and people are like, nope, you're singing shit. I'm not letting you in. Try somewhere else. Be quite disappointed.
Yeah. I just remembered one song particular that it's completely ridiculous, but they teach this to kids, and like I remember when I was a kid, I didn't even give it some thought about what this song is about. But when you just look at the lyrics as an adult, you're like, why do they teach this to kids? It doesn't make any sense. It's very short, but it gets just repeated. So Jólasveinar gangum gól með gildan staf í hendi, móðir þeirra sópar gólf og flengir þá með vendi. Upp á stól stendur mín kanna, 9 nóttum fyrir jól þá kem ég til manna. So the lyrics are that Jólasveinar, like the Yule lads, they walk around with a thick stick in their hand. Their mother is sweeping the floor and spanks them. On a chair stands my jug, like, to pour water. And 9 nights before Christmas, I will come to men. It makes no sense in Icelandic and English or any other language. It's just it's just ridiculous.
But it sounds good, and that's all you need.
It's a good tune.
Yeah. No, I like it. Well, it's not Christmas related, but I got a fun one for you. Where's it? Dau bach yn mynd i'r coed gyda sgidiau'r abotroed. Dau bach yn cerdded adref wedi colli un o sgidiau dau bach. It is like 2 dogs go into the woods with shoes on all of their feet, and then 2 dogs go home having lost one of their shoes. 2 little dogs. That's it. It's just fucking nonsense.
Is it like 99 bottles on the wall, so like they keep losing shoes?
No, that's it. That's literally it. That's the highlight of the whole thing.
Okay. You can keep adding, and then they come out with a coat, and then and a red nose. And then you take it all off. And
they go and find the shoe and they lose it again.
But I mean, there's just so many things that you get taught as a kid. You don't really think about it, but when you deconstruct it as an adult, like why is this song is stupid? Why why are they teaching this to kids? It's weird.
Yeah. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, I mean it's good to be a kid sometimes. Just don't think about it.
I envy those songwriters though, because I end up spending so much time trying to make the lyrics to my songs, you know, deep and interesting and so on. And then you get like people that just make up this absolute gibberish, and you know, everyone's a kid at some point, so kids love it, so almost everyone loves these songs. Maybe we're doing it wrong, man. Maybe we just gotta write all songs for kids.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to just make some random text and push it really hard towards kids to like this is a new Christmas song. It's about, you know, caramels and horse dung. You're gonna love it.
Yeah. I got introduced the other day to the shark song on YouTube, the most played video on YouTube ever. I'm a bit late to the game.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, not too long ago.
Well, maybe we can do something like that about horse skulls and Yule lads.
Yeah. Get 10 billion views or whatever it has.
If we have a cute little dance to it.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to do a choreography dance.
Yeah, man. I like it. Well, I was just thinking before, like, you mentioned about elves and fairies and so on. Oh, you said more elves, but you know, when it comes to Welsh mythology and Welsh myths and stuff, stories, there's not always so much of a difference in between elves and fairies. If they've got red ears, you just shouldn't trust them. That's usually how it goes. So, you know, there's quite a few stories, like say from around Snowdonia, where they're saying that if you know, if you come across like people dancing at night time with red ears, you just shouldn't trust them and you shouldn't join in, because there's, you know, supposedly a few people that have gone dancing with them for half an hour, and you know that then the next day they find out that 50 years has passed and so on, and they got stuck in the realm of the elves and all this. So it's really interesting how that idea of the distortion of time and space and going into another world and stuff with these strange characters.
But like, I wanna imagine the origin of this myth or legend, because like if I was walking in the woods or anywhere and I came upon people dancing, I would absolutely join in. But
absolutely,
like, somebody must have been in a really pissy mood and seen these people dancing and was like, no, I don't want to do this. Is against God or something, and he just completely knocked it for everyone because he wasn't in a mood to dance. So he ruined it, so people can't go dancing in the woods anymore because some fuddy-duddy was like, oh no, I don't feel like dancing. So if someone else would have been like, oh, next time
I don't feel like dancing.
Yeah, like dancing. Like next time you see people dancing in the wood with red ears, you should absolutely trust them. Maybe that's in a different timeline.
Yeah, if you're going to take, as the listener, if you're going to take anything away from this podcast, it's if you find elves, you should definitely join in. You know, and if a zombie turns up and tries to take you to the ball, you should definitely go.
Well, we have one of our more famous folk songs in Iceland called Ólafur Liljurós. I'll sing a little bit, like, Ólafur reið með björgum fram, villir hann, stillir hann, hitt hann fyrir sér álvaran, þar rauður loginn brann. Blíðan lagði byrinn undan björgunum, blíðan lagði byrinn undan björgunum fram. So, this song it's a really long song. It's a tale, really, and it goes like it repeats over and over, and you get to a little more and more of the story. It's about so Ólafur Tryggvason was the Norwegian king who Christianized Iceland. I don't know if that's the right word, but he got rid of the dirty heathens, and so they made folk. Up. Yeah. Well, I mean, Icelanders remained heathen just in secrecy for a long time after that. And they made up a song of him where Ólafur, he's riding like in the mountains of Iceland, being his kingly self, and he meets 4 elven ladies. One is like offers him, mead or beer. One is like she's only wearing a belt. She's like really hot and enticing him. And one has food, and there's like, hey, yo, do you want to come into our elf hole and, have some fun, have some... And he's like, nah, I don't want to do any of that heathen elven stuff. It's against my god. And they're like, okay, fine, if you're gonna be that way, could you at least, give me a little kiss? And he's like, all right, and he gives it like this tiny peck on the cheek. Is like, eh. And she's like, all right, okay, hang on a second. And she goes into the hole and comes back with a sax and stabs him. And he dies.
And that's how he dies?
Yeah, the end. So that's why, if elves offer you some, sex and meat and fun, you should accept.
You better bloody take it.
Yeah.
Well, again, that's definitely supporting what we're saying. If if the elves offer you to party, you got to bloody take it.
Yeah, I mean that's another song they teach you as a kid. You don't really think about that. It's about a guy who refuses sex and alcohol and gets stabbed. You just kind of sing the song because it's jolly.
I like it. Right. Well, on that note, now that we have made our point to the general public, I think we should stop rambling. Thank you so much, man, for doing this with me.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
And hopefully, and obviously we were hoping to do this in person, but the Ragnarok keeps stopping us from getting to meet in person, so we'll do it at another point.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, cheers, and I'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.